Hey, welcome to my little world, such as it is. Hey, I'm glad you're with me today. It's a beautiful day. Snow is melting all over the place. It's been melting for the last few days and it'll be gone pretty soon. Sorry for the kids. I'm glad that it's kind of going away. Who knows? We may have another round of it before long. But anyway, good enough. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a beautiful day and I hope you're enjoying yourself. But I'm glad you're with me for a moment today. Been kind of out of sync with these things for a little while, so I'll share this one with you and we'll see where it goes from there. And it caught my attention just today when I happened to pick up an old Reader's Digest that was falling apart, and I picked it up, and one of the articles in it was about how important it is to fail. There's a whole lot in the story, and it's nothing new about that, but it pointed out that we have a great fear of failure. If you start looking at the lists of fears that we commonly have, one of them is failure. And somebody points out that failure is only failure if you stop trying, and that's a good point to hold on to. But it's important sometimes for us to see where our limits are, see where we've failed, for a moment at least, and where we can learn how to pick up and move forward. That's an important factor. And so that's what I kind of was thinking about today in regard to this, because I think sometimes we're afraid to do some things because we just might not succeed. We just might not succeed in these things. If you go through and you just make a quick Google search, you'll find there are a lot of people who tried a lot of things and failed at a lot of things, some a great deal in history. One that caught my attention was a fellow by the name of Walt Disney. You wouldn't think about Walt Disney as being a failure because he was so successful. The movies that were made, you go back to the 1960s and so many of those Walt Disney family movies that came out felt like you could go and take your family. They may have been a little bit syrupy sweet, but they were a lot of fun. And you can go even before that. And you go back to those amazing cartoon, that may not be the right term anymore, but you know what I mean. Animated, there's a better term. Animated movies that he made, things like Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, just marvelous things. And the cartoons. And Mickey Mouse, who can overlook Mickey Mouse and what it has brought? And the Disneylands and Disney Worlds that are all over the world today. We think of Walt Disney and we hear that name Disney and we think of great success. We may not like everything that Disney has done by any means and continues to do today. That's not the point. But you think there's a great success. But if you go back, you find that Walt Disney dropped out of school to join the Army and failed to join the Army. He even began a Laugh-O-Gram studio. Sounds pretty good. And it went bankrupt because he didn't know how to run a business. And he was even fired from a Missouri newspaper at one point in his career. Believe it or not, because they didn't see him as imaginative enough. Think about that. Walt Disney, a failure? No. We don't think about Walt Disney as a failure. We think about the great success of Walt Disney. And the question is, why do we see him as a success? It's because he kept pressing on. One of the great passages that I need to turn to every now and then when I'm feeling a little bit low is one that Paul writes in Philippians chapter 3. He says, "Brethren, I do not count myself to have apprehended." That's verse 13. "But one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forward to those things which are ahead." There's your great key. Let the things behind you go and reach forward to the things that are ahead. He says in verse 14, "I press towards the goal of the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus." He says, you need to have that kind of mind. That's what he goes on to say. It's important for us to set aside the things that have been seen as failures or have held us back or gotten in our way. And when we do that, we can press forward in life in the most positive way. There's no doubt there are things and obstacles that get into our lives that don't immediately go away or don't even necessarily always go away. But I keep thinking about the fellow that I occasionally see circling the park when I go out there and try to make a few rounds on the track, and I see him in his wheelchair, and he has no legs. And I may be slow, and my aged legs can't do what they used to do, but I look at a guy like that, and I think, he set aside the thing that would hold him back and the excuse he has, and he goes out there and puts himself to work. A little bit different, but he puts himself to work. You know, we can find all kinds of reasons to stop. We can find all kinds of reasons to just say, I won't do it anymore. We can find all kinds of reasons to throw it all aside and just dismiss it and say, I just can't. But when you see a guy like that, the words of Paul come back. Forgetting those things which are behind. Push them to the back. Learn from them. And then press on towards the goal. There's an old story used to circulate every now and then. It's about a teacher who began the school year, got all the kids in the class, and the school year was beginning, and she gave them each a sheet of paper. And on the paper, she said, I want you to write the things that you can't do. And so the children sat down and said, what do you want us to put that on there? Well, whatever you think you can't do. And she gave them some time. After a little while, she said everybody got a list, and the children had written on the things that they felt like they could not do. Then she took a shoebox, set it in front of them. She said, okay, one at a time, everybody come up here and drop your list in the box. A little bit later, they went out into the schoolyard where she had pre-dug a hole. She pushed the shoebox down into the hole, covered it over, and said, now we dismiss them in this great funeral of things we cannot do. She went back and explained to them that they had just had an I can't funeral. No longer were the can'ts a part of their lives. From that point forward, we do what we can do. Isn't that what Paul was trying to say? Isn't that what Disney and others have done? You can read through a great list and find inspiration in them all. But I love the words of Paul, forgetting the things which are behind and reaching forward to the things that are ahead. Don't center on the things that you can't do. Center on the things that you can. That's the admonition. And keep the highest goal in place. I press towards the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. That's your inspiration for today. Hey, I'm glad you're with me. Hope it's something that means something to you. I hope it encourages you on a day like this. If you're having a tough day, maybe that's exactly what you needed to hear. I know it is for me now and then. Okay. We'll look forward to sharing some more a little further down the road, but thank you for being with me today, and I hope you continue to have just a fantastic day.